Lights. Action camera. Okay, good evening, everyone. Somebody's awake out there. Okay. I know it's not Sunday morning church, right? I'm Gwinnetta Gittens. I'm the chairperson for DAC. And first of all, I would like to say welcome to all. How many people are new, first-time DAC representatives? Okay, welcome, welcome. And first meeting of DAC, raise your hand. Okay, awesome. We had a lot of schools that had not, by our September 16th meeting, had not already defined and elected people to come. So we have a lot of new faces tonight. But it's painless. We'll help walk you through it. First of all, I'd like you to take a look at the minutes from the September 16th meeting. See if there are any changes that you might see. And, okay, would you mind coming up real quick?
Melissa Smith with Buckingham Exceptional. We were in attendance on the 16th. There was a problem with the sign-in sheet.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other additions or corrections to the minutes from September 16th? May I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Cindy Crosby, motion to accept minutes.
Cindy Crosby, may I have a second? Andy Erickson, second. Thank you. And we have a pretty busy schedule. The next thing on the agenda is public comment. This is, as you can see in bold, non-DAC members. If you are a representative or an alternate, either one, this is not the time for you to be able to speak. This is non-DAC members, and these are agenda items. So if you look down the agenda, if there's something that you see that you would like to comment on at this point, you can come to the podium. Do we have any non-DAC member agenda item comments? Okay, and then we'll move on. Next, we have our board update with Mr. Toiber. It's all yours.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. I really want to thank you for being part of DAC. Pam filled in for me last month, because I had my knee surgery on back, and I appreciate what Pam could actually speak to you. And I'm sure she said that some of the same things about how important it is for the DAC committee and what you do as far as translating what we do at the district level back to your schools, to your SACs, and for the SACs as a group, whether it be elementary, middle, or high, the problems that are common across that particular platform to discuss between yourselves and then bring that forward to the DAC committee to be addressed either by the DAC committee for the resources that we have at the district or forwarded to the board. So I want to thank you for that. As far as the board itself, over the last month, it's been, you've seen us a lot in the news. Going forward, we hope you won't see us in the news. We have a new superintendent, Dr. Atkins. How we got there, that's all in the past. What the truth is now is that we have a district with a new leader with a 3-year contract, a board that is working very hard together in a very good unison. Pam probably told you about our retreat. I don't know if you call it a retreat if we spend the first day 8 hours in the maintenance compound and 6 hours here on the floor of this school board on a Saturday during football, if that's actually a retreat. But we did, and we were very, very productive, and we had a very good result the first day with the superintendent, so that everybody understands the board is in complete harmony as far as what we expect from our superintendent. The superintendent is in harmony with us. We're continuing to work on our objectives as far as where he needs to go, and so that we can support him moving forward. I think it sent a very strong message through our district, and we're hoping to start seeing that harmony and that congruence as we go forward throughout schools. Our focus will be we're trying to get our focus more on our schools as far as what we need to do to put in our schools to have high-performing schools. And Dr. Atkins is very keyed in on that. Our administrative team is very keyed in on that, and so is the board. So That's all I'm going to say. At this point, this will probably be, I don't know, we rotate in November as far as board members, and I know a lot of board members, including myself, are very passionate about being part of the DAC, being the DAC rep, so they may boot me out. Someone else gets a turn, and I respect that. I will put in my bid for this as well, but don't expect to see, if you see somebody new, because we all want to be part of this, because this is one of the ones where the rubber meets the road. So please feel free to use the board, whether I'm on the board, whether I'm serving you as a DAC rep or not. Don't hesitate to use any of the board members as a conduit, and for us to flow it back to the DAC, because your input is valuable. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Teuber, and thank you for serving with us during your time if you're not back next time. The next thing on the agenda is the Transportation Review Committee. I'm going to read a statement from Mr. Morgan, who wasn't able to be here tonight, and then I will tell you what we have to do. We have to conduct a vote as well. Per Board Policy 7.02, a Transportation Review Committee shall be formed to hear any requests of individual concerns caused by unusual situations or hardships. The committee shall consist of A, Director of Transportation, B, one principal, elementary or middle, C, one representative from each school zone elected by the District Advisory Council, that's where we come in, and D, Transportation Safety Supervisor, and E, one local law enforcement officer. And at this time, we would like to set into motion volunteers and nominees to establish the Transportation Review Committee. And the way we're going to have to do this is, if anyone from, we'll do one from the east and the south and the west zone. So we will ask you, if you're interested from the zone, as I call it, to please stand up. And do you have the microphone? Okay. And Andy's going to come around and you will tell us your name and the school that you represent. And then we will vote from the members that are included there. So let's take South first. South Zone, anybody interested?
Chris Patrica, Pine Woods Elementary School.
Carrot Shays in Benita Middle.
Okay, and please remain standing. And I guess, oh, come on down front, ladies. And can you tell me your name once more? Chasnu? Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name right, the last name. C-H-A-Z-I-N. Z-I-N, Chazen, okay. And Chris Patrica. Okay, we have before us the two people that are interested in doing Transportation Review Committee for the South Zone. Yeah, so that your feelings don't get hurt. And you turn... Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay, everyone has seen them, so if they can remain turning around, they can't see the camera. Yes. Since it's a new committee, I don't know how much they can make a... You can turn around and tell them.
I was on the Transportation Committee a couple years ago. Nothing really happened. We got lucky. It was after all the buses got put outside the communities, and we fought to get them all back in. Then we made a committee, and of course, then everything was pretty much taken care of. And last year, it didn't really happen. But
It's my understanding that this committee will address individual hardships and individual transportation situations, and I think that I come to most decision-making processes from a data-driven, factual-based perspective, and I'd like to bring that to this committee.
Okay, nice.
Okay. This is giving the upper hand to the other two districts. Now you know what to say. Okay, all right. Yeah, go ahead. Would you please raise your hand? And if somebody else can help us count. You done? Okay. And, yes. go
Now
ahead.
for this person here. Winner.
Okay. And would you ladies turn around, please? And our
Winner is Chris Patricia.
Patrica. Okay. Thank you, Chris. She will be our representative for the South Zone. And let me go to West Zone. Anyone interested in West Zone? You've had a chance to get your speech together now.
Or not. You're the only one, you don't need to.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We don't have an idea yet as to when it's going to meet. And like Chris was saying, I think this is a little bit different than the regular Transportation Committee in that they are dealing basically with issues that come up and how to solve them. So I do not have the answer as to when they meet. But you will be contacted. Unless anyone else from the district knows. Any idea? Okay.
Okay. Barbara Schoonmaker from Cape High.
Cindy Crosby from Ida Baker High.
You two would
Wanna come
like
up?
to.
Want to say a little something why you want to be on?
Okay. Well, years ago I was a bus driver. I also am a retired employee of the school district, and I feel that I can bring to this committee a concept of how to be fair to the parents.
And I've had two of my children rode buses for years. I actually had a bus stop changed due to, I guess, a hardship. So, and I feel like I'm empathetic to the parents that need that type of decision.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready to
Go
do it?
ahead.
All in favor of this person here? Okay, thank you.
Okay. And the second.
And this person here? Okay, we got a winner.
Okay.
What's your name again?
Barbara Schoonmaker.
Say your name. You're the winner.
Barbara Schoonmaker.
Okay.
And
And
she'll
the,
need-
the winners, make sure that you see Mary before the meeting is over to make sure she has all of your information. And now we have East Zone, and I'm going to be unorthodox because I would like to be on the committee for East Zone. So take over.
So that we have one here.
Gwen
Your name
Gittens.
and what school you're at.
Gwen Gittens from Lehigh Acres Middle School.
Okay. Do we have anybody else that'd like to run? Don't be scared of her now. Anybody else from the East? Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Okay, so we have our three reps for the Transportation Review Committee. Thank you very much. And those that have been elected, make sure that you see Mary when wave your hand for them. Make sure you see her before the end of the evening to get your information. Okay, moving along, we are now going to have our first speaker, who is Mr. Mark Mora. He's going to talk to us about the 2016-17 Plan for Student Assignment, Proposed Changes, Updates, and Site Selection Committee. Mr. Mora?
Thank you, Gwen. Appreciate it.
Not live.
There we go. Good evening, DAC members, Mr. Teuber, Ms. Ralph. It's great to be here to present this topic tonight to you. I actually have two topics for your consideration. As you know, we bring the student assignment plan annually to DAC for input, for review. So we'll bring that forward and share with you what recommendations have come forth from the task force. And I also have some opportunity for input as far as high school LL site selection process. And much like Gwen just did for representation on the Transportation Review Committee, we're looking for members from DAC to represent on the Site Selection Committee as well. So we'll get into the details for that in just a second. For the new members, we do have a task force. It's comprised basically of district-based and school-based folks. We do have teachers on the committee that meet regularly throughout the school year with the aim of looking at our student assignment plan and looking for ways to make it better, continuous improvement. Before we jump into that, the plan for student assignment has some particular goals and interest. It's to improve student achievement, to ensure educational equity, to promote the educational benefits of diversity, and to manage growth effectively. And the task force is convened to look at those 4 goals, to accomplish them with fidelity, and to ensure that they are all interrelated goals that are achieved in the most effective way possible. And again, they make recommendations to the school board, but prior to coming to the board, it's presented to both EDAC and DAC. The timeline for this year, we've had the EDAC presentation on October 8th, so that particular board advisory group had the opportunity to hear and provide input in regards to the recommendations that we're making. Tonight is the DAC presentation. It's scheduled to be brought to the board for briefing on November 3rd, and ultimately on November 17th, we'll bring any recommendations we have forth for approval at that time. The 2016-17 recommendations are not substantial. I know last year, if you remember, we brought 3 or 4 recommendations for changes. This year, it's basically a year that we're taking to reassess the plan and look at different ways we can do student assignment in a very general way. The first recommendation is the actual restructuring of the content of the plan and to add some relevant information to make the document easier to read and comprehend by all users. Because we get feedback from customers in regards to the plan, in regards to its readability, we've discovered that it's not very user-friendly. A lot of people struggle to find information in regards to student assignment. It's confusing. Some of the information is embedded in parts of the plan you'd never think would be there. The plan has evolved over the 18 years we've had this particular student assignment process, and we've arrived at the time that needs to be restructured so it's more friendly to the user. And the first thing we had to do was identify, well, who is the user of the plan? And I think you all know that answer. It's primarily parents enrolling their students in our school system. And secondarily, it would be the schools that are receiving those students. In a lot of ways, the plan was written for the folks that work downtown here, like myself. And we certainly already have a knowledge of the plan and the inner workings of the process. So it's better to have documentation that's suited for the people that use it most. The second, and I'm going to dive into that first recommendation in a second, so you're going to see how we're recommending the restructuring. The second recommendation actually comes forth from our superintendent, Dr. Atkins, and he has asked for us to develop a 3-year strategic plan for student assignment that provides for the assignment of students to schools in the closest proximity to their homes while ensuring equitable access to quality academic programming in the most desired school services. So that's basically the aim at looking at this 3-year strategic plan, how we can accomplish that. And we bring that forth to DAC because you are a great source of input on those things. And I'll share a little bit more about what that strategic plan is all about and what we're aiming to do. You might not be able to see this, but what we did to show the changes in the plan or the proposed changes, the restructuring, is basically take a look at the table of contents, because that explains what's inside the plan now and how it's organized. The current plan starts with an introduction, and the introduction is actually a delve into the historical background to the plan, which is very important, because the history of why we do things student assignment wise in this county is very important to why we're doing things the way we do right now. And also that introduction includes some explanation of any of the new components that we've infused into the plan over the years. So that's what readers saw first when they looked at the plan. The second part of the plan was actually delving into how we developed the plan. Again, something that's very important historically, especially for folks who want to understand the history of our system, but not particularly interesting to the folks who have a student they want to enroll into a school. The next part was goals for the plan. And then finally, some of the information that parents probably want to see, the choice zones and subzones, because those are basically the backbones of how we do our assignment process. Then this section went into schools and programs. And then we talked about marketing and program placement. Now, again, very important topics, but are they important to parents? And lastly, which we in the committee believed was the most important part of the plan, is the student assignment process itself. These are the nuts and bolts of how we do it. And this is the most important information that a parent wants at their fingertips when they're enrolling a child. And then we finished up with falsification of information and the annual report to the board. The appendix now contains a subzone map as well as the subzone and zone school groupings. So that's what the plan looks like now. And so instead of bringing the 80-page document here and walking through it, I thought if you looked at the table of contents, you'd get the gist of what we're trying to do. So here's our proposed change in the formatting. We want an introduction, and the blue on these things are representing something that we're adding that's not already in the plan. The red is something that exists now, and what we're basically doing is moving where it is in the plan. And if you see, I believe the other color is green, those are things that are in the plan but not on the table of contents. Those are things that parents would have to search for through this 80-page document to find it. So this reformatting, again, is to improve the readability and usability for the primary user, which is our parents. So after the introduction basically is an introduction of what our system looks like, how it differs from the systems that people might have in their hometowns. We've got a lot of people that move from up north that are accustomed to a boundary system, or some folks from here in Florida who might be accustomed to a choice system that's like ours, but has magnet programs and is run just a little differently. So from the get-go, we want parents to understand that our system is unique. There are great benefits to it, and it's going to differ from what they might be accustomed to. The second part is we wanted to put the choice zones and subzones right up front, because really, where you live and what subzone actually establishes what schools you can choose from. So why not from the get-go let the parents know what schools they should be researching and what schools they'll need to rank when they go to student assignment. The next thing that's most important to knowing what schools are available to you are what is the programming in the schools that are available to you. So we stuck that into the third section under schools and programs. It really gives them a broad perspective of where all our schools are located, what type of programming as far as special program is concerned, where some of our exceptional student education programs are located. So we thought that's real important. Remember, we're looking at through the mind of a parent. They're coming to the student assignment office. One, they want to know what schools they can choose, because we have a choice system. Two, what schools are they choosing among? What programs do they have? And the next thing we think is more important to even that is, well, how do I go through the student assignment process? What do I have to do in this choice system? The green, again, remember, those are things that are already in the plan that we want to call out. Because before you enroll or before you're assigned to school, you have to fill in an application. It would be great for parents to know beforehand, before they get to student assignment, they must first rank the schools. And we'd really want them to get out and do some research, make some visits, really learn what schools are the best fit for their children. So if we let them know from the get-go that the application requires you to rank schools, hopefully they'll do their homework and do that research. Factors affecting initial school assignments. We have a lot of things embedded in our system. Sibling preference, proximity preference, the sibling guarantee. Those are all drivers that parents need to understand when they rank their schools, can influence their assignment. The whole grandfathering aspect of it, that you don't have to come back year after year to pick your school. You stay there until the highest grade. We think that's an important thing to bring out. And the continuation opportunities are also something that are important. Now, there's two things we added here. The rolling enrollment process. You know, we have this batch period, this open enrollment period that runs from January to April. Everybody goes in, submits their application, gets assigned to school. Well, what happens to the children that move to our district after this batch process? In April, May, June, what goes on then? Well, it's a very similar process as we all know, but it's kind of different because our schools fill up in the first batch. So what's left over? I think we need to be frank with parents that come in after the batch about the process, about the eligibility pools, about their chances of being assigned to their school of choice, and that's why we've added that there. The last thing that we added in that section was where our student assignment offices are located. And if you're out on the web, I'm sure you can find the student assignment offices, but if you printed out the plan or you're leafing through it, why not let the parents know where they have to go to enroll? What the hours are. We have parents that line up very early in the morning. If you work here, you can see them sometimes. And we have parents that come by late in the afternoon, knocking on the door, trying to get in, discovering that we're closed. So to be customer friendly, we should let them know up front what our hours are, where we're located. And we also want to give them some contact information. You know, we have some really good resources that are out on the web. We have a really good department that's responsive to parents. Let's get the contact information in the hands of the parents so they know where to go when they have questions. We had schools and programs up here next in the old table of contents, as you remember. But we think another important topic is changing schools. And the changing schools could mean the eligibility pools, where you don't get your first choice school, but within the first 15 days, you still have that opportunity for assignment if a seat opens up. And we want to talk about transfers. And as you probably remember, last year we made a transfer change in regards to high school transfers. Right now, high school students aren't permitted to transfer. They're only permitted to transfer after the first semester. So we have a process for that. So we think it's important that that parents understand our transfer policy. We had marketing as number 6. We think waivers are more important than marketing for parents. Waivers explain the different ways that you might get assigned to a school outside of the lottery system. We have employee waivers, hardship waivers. We have the high school waiver. If you're in an advanced high school program and you arrive at your junior year and you're no longer interested in being part of that program, the high school waiver allows you to stay at that school as a regular student for the rest of your high school years. We have a moving waiver that allows you to change schools when you move from zone to zone. And lastly, temporary change of address waiver. Those are things that parents don't dig into the plan and actually know that are a part of how we do our work. So we wanted to pull that out of the plan and put it on the table of contents so they could find it. The historical background of the plan, as I mentioned before, is very important. So we've kept that and moved it towards the back where people can use it almost as an appendix. We thought it important to actually break down the history in a table showing all of the changes to our plan over the years, because it's quite amazing how we've changed and all the changes that have been made to the assignment plan itself. And then talk a little bit about the process of how the plan's developed. Moving on to Roman numeral 8, those are the key plan components. Roman numeral 9 are the plan goals. And then you can just see we put marketing program placement, falsification information, annual report to board towards the back. Those are not really germane to the parents enrolling the kids, but still very important information for any user. We have a lot of people that are interested in the way that we do student assignment and often look at the plan to see how we operate our system. In the appendix, we've kept the subzone map. We think that's very important for parents so they can identify what schools are available to them. And of course, on an annual basis, we change the zone and subzone school groupings matrix. So those are the proposed changes to the structuring of the plan. I will also add to that there has been some language change. We continuously look at the language and how it's read and make suggestions for changes there. They're minor. They're mostly language changes, but don't change the essence of the way that we assign students. So those are the recommendations as far as reformatting the plan. I mentioned briefly about the 3-year strategic plan. And this is, like, again, something Dr. Atkins thinks is very important, that we have a roadmap for what we're going to do with student assignment, basically wrapped around the fact that we need to become more efficient, and more efficient in many different ways. We all understand that transportation is a great challenge for us and a great expense. And a lot of that is due to the way that we assign students. And there are ways that we can more efficiently transport students that could be accomplished through looking at the student assignment plan and opportunities to tighten it up, to make it better, and to still offer all of our parents and students choice and a quality school. So I don't want to reiterate the purpose, but it's basically to look at the elementary students and find ways in the plan that we can more efficiently find the closest school to their home, but at the same time assuring that they get that quality education that they expect and all those services that are available at schools that they desire. It's really aligning student assignment with strategic plan goal or focus area number 7, where we're allocating resources strategically. So we have identified so far some key objectives. Equity, that's the backbone of our plan. Equitable access for all students. Efficiency, doing things economically and effective. Talent, we understand that to have an effective school, to make all schools equitable, is we have to have talent in both teaching and leadership at the school level. And the engagement and collaboration piece is key. And that's parent, community, engagement, and collaboration. So those are our key objectives. Now you might ask, well, how are you going to accomplish them? And that's a great question. We have started to formulate some initiatives and some strategies, and obviously starting to build some key performance indicators around them. But that's where you all come in on this whole thing. We're going to need the input of DAC and all of our committees. EDAC's another example of a committee that's going to weigh in on how we accomplish some of these things that we have set as for objectives. So I mentioned this only because although we didn't make any significant changes to the plan this year, you can anticipate that we're hoping to make a lot of changes coming forward, but we're going to do it with collaboration with the key stakeholders such as DAC, the community, and parents. So I mentioned this only to keep it on your plate and to keep thinking, and you'll hear more as we work towards these goals. The last thing I want to talk about is proposed high school LLL. And we're in the planning stages for that school, and I'm sure you're all well aware of our growth in the district, and one of the greatest needs we have right now as far as capacity is high school, and particularly in the south zone, the east zone as well. Very fast growing. And we have now looked at projections that suggest that we need an additional school, a high school in the south zone. We are targeting Bonita Springs. We have a lot of kids that live in Bonita in that area who can't go to Estero because it's at capacity, and we're transporting them. Talk about efficiency. We're transporting them to Estero High School. So the time has come to look for a new high school in that area. Board Policy 9.01 suggests that a committee look at any sites that we're proposing for any type of school to provide comment on those sites and advise the school board on the things that we're thinking about doing as far as sites are concerned. So Board Policy 9.01 is driving this. The membership on that committee to look at and vet the sites that we're considering is 9 members in total. 2 representatives from each school choice zone, and as you're probably aware, it's the east, west, and south, just like you did with the Transportation Review Committee, and they're elected by DAC. So there will be 6 total from DAC, and 3 representatives elected from EDAC, and we have the 3 members from EDAC already selected, so a charge for DAC is to nominate those folks so that we can start the committee process. We're anticipating there'll be 2 meetings. One on Monday, November 16th, 2016, time to be determined right here at the Lee County Public Education Center. At that particular time, we'll have all of most of the details for these sites. We'll have a site plan, or the site. We'll have a site plan. We'll have some demographic information in regards to the kids that live in proximity to that site. We should have some preliminary traffic studies. We will have a list of concerns or issues that we anticipate we'll get from the community, and we'll also have at that particular time a plan on how we hope to mitigate some of those concerns. So again, the meeting purpose, or the meeting purposes, will be to review the proposed locations for high school LLL, which we anticipate opening in the fall of 2018-19 in Bonita Springs. Now the second meeting will have a feasibility study available for the review team to review. So it's basically a feasibility study that we go to an outside consultant to do. They look at many different things. Even though we're going to do some preliminary traffic studies, there will be a very comprehensive traffic study in regards to where we are hoping to build a school, as well as some site analysis, as well as air and water and soil quality from that site. So there'll be many different characteristics of that site available for review in that site analysis plan. So that's what we're looking to do for the High School LL Site Selection Committee. And I don't know if Gwen wants to do that election process tonight, similar to what she did with transportation. It's not necessary as long as we have some names before November 16th. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, that's 2015. I'm sorry. Yeah, good spot. I'm sorry. I'm in planning, so we think ahead. Not too far ahead, though. 2015, yes. Yeah, we would basically need to have the committee review and input completed before the board took action of purchasing a site. So it's a key component. It's a necessary component before we can get a site. So those are the three things basically I want to bring forward. Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, we have to do the alpha go to the right there.
I'm sorry, Gwen?
If they have a comment or a question, they have to go to the mic because it has to be recorded.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, so I know that there was a site right there off of Jewel Boulevard where you guys had typically were going to do a high school there. Is that true?
This is not, right now we're just picking the advisory committee. All those properties that are currently under advisement, the committee is actually reviewing all the particular properties that are available. Mm-hmm. The board we have not been apprised of any of the properties, and as far as the updates, that would be part of that committee. So if you want to be on that committee or when it gets finally further down that road, that will be disclosed.
Yeah, I was just curious because I've lived in Alva/Lehigh and Fort Myers my whole entire life, and I know that at one point Alva was all three. Then they took high school out of Alva, put it into Riverdale. So now Riverdale is the only area you have for Alva. So then all the people that live out in Lehigh, like way out in Lehigh towards the Bella and Alva area, plus Alva, are being transferred either to East Lee or they're being transferred to Riverdale, which is kind of like a long transportation. That's why I was wondering. And then I saw you guys had that Lee County school site board sticking up there, so that's why I thought that's where you guys were building the new high school. But
this particular high school is down in Bonita. There's right now there's no other.
Nothing for East right now.
There's no other schools. We actually have 5 schools in our 5-year plan, but the next ones after this high school, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Mora, but it's middle school and then 2 elementaries, then the high school, correct?
Yeah, you're correct. We do have a high school on the books for the East Zone. That would be high school MMM, which this committee would be LLL. And that is one of the district-owned properties that we have that is big enough for a high school. But Mr. Toiber is correct. The first one up here that we're talking about is LLL. And we'll have the same opportunity for a committee when we start reviewing sites for the East Zone.
But that site is a middle school, not necessarily a high school.
Well, we have quite a few sites in the East Zone. That we haven't got down to the planning in regards to the middle and elementary school in the East Zone yet, but we have marked some properties that are viable sites for it. I would say the larger ones, like the one at Joel and Tuckahoe, that we'd probably want to reserve for a high school because it is 100 acres, I believe. So, or it could be a combination school where we can put elementary in the middle. So as Mr. Toiber suggested, we're kind of focusing on the South Zone High School in Bonita because that's our most immediate need. Luckily with the East Zone, we were able to put the addition onto Dunbar High School, and we gained a little over 300 seats there. And that's fulfilling our need for right now. But we do know when we look out 5 years that more high school seats are needed. And I'm sure this same opportunity is going to come for the East Zone as well.
We have 2 high schoolers, and right now there's 3 high schools to choose from. And just I'm not like thrilled with the high schools that are out there right now. That's the only reason why I'm asking. I assumed that's what that was going to be for, was for a high school.
Yeah, it can be considered. It's the right size, but. And that time will come to address that issue too. But thank you very much.
Dante Chalfie, Fort Myers Technical College. Dr. Mora, thanks for the excellent work you and your committee did. This is definitely impressive. Quick question, what has been done in terms of equitable access regarding our sub-communities of Haitian Creole and Hispanic in terms of the actual materials? I assume they'll be translated into those languages?
I really wish I could answer that. I'm sure that I know Ms. Ralph, I don't know if on your side of our operation might be able to address that. I will tell you that through the assignment of students, that's something that we monitor, and we want diversity in our schools, and I'm addressing it just from an assignment perspective. That's my purview, that we do monitor the ethnicity of our students, the race of our students, and the goal of the plan is diversity, one of the major goals. And that means language diversity too, not just ethnic and race. That's something that we're definitely aware of. That's information that we bring to our EDAC committee on a regular basis. And things that we do inside of the plan as far as special attractors and programs and those are things that we need to consider there. So even though I can't address that particular issue, I will address the fact that when we talk about programming, diversity can be promoted through the programs we place in our schools, and that's definitely an ongoing consideration. And we realize that in some schools, that's a serious and challenging concern. There are ways that we can address it through student assignment, but I know there's also ways we do it through the academic curriculum.
Right, and just because you emphasized on the printed materials that equitable access, so if those could be translated, that would be my only wish. So,
okay, yeah. I understand now. Yes, the printed materials. Thank you. Absolutely, we'll bring that recommendation forward.
Hi, my name's Rhonda Hansen from representing Mariner High School. I have a question with regard to the first documents that you spoke of and making them more user-friendly for parents. I didn't really see anything on there addressing how it may be affected with ESE students. I remember a few years ago when I had an autistic ESE student rising to high school, and basically we were told that you couldn't participate in any kind of prioritization or choice. You either had to renounce your ESE services and go through choice, or you had to say, yes, I want services, and then they would randomly assign you to wherever they had space in your zone. I hope that's not correct and still the way it is, but regardless of the process, it seems like maybe the parents with ESE students would want to see somewhere in there, how does that affect my using of the product, of the process?
That's an excellent point, and I appreciate that. And you're right. It's kind of embedded in Roman numeral 3, schools and programs, and you'd have to do a little search to find it. So I think your recommendation might be that we pull out some exceptional student education information as it pertains to student assignment so that parents could find it more easily. I will address the choice for ESE students, particularly the inclusion model that we now have. I'm sure a lot of you guys are well aware of it, that we used to cluster services in certain schools, and they would have limited choice based on where those clusters were located. The inclusion model has enabled us to move choice out to a lot of different students, especially in exceptional student education, because we do now service 4 SDMs or service delivery models that used to be isolated in clusters. Now they're found, and services are found in all of our schools. So a student that might be an IA student now has a choice of all of the schools, because that program now is part of the inclusion model. So I think that has improved. We still have a lot of SDMs, service delivery models, that are clustered only at particular schools, and those kids aren't part of the choice system because there's only one location for them to go to. And I think that's an ongoing challenge for us as far as resources are concerned in order to service them, to spread them out thin. The clustering model sometimes is a more effective and efficient way to do things. But I will take your note about the plan and calling that information out. I think it's very important. We do get quite a few questions about exceptional student education. I would say in the back, the appendix is probably a good place to place where the programs are located so parents might know what their choices are. We don't have that right now. We do maintain it in-house. We know where the programs, the self-contained units are. But parents, you'd have to go into student assignment to figure that out. So your point well taken. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it could be done in staffing, but I think when it comes to the open lottery and the enrollment period, they are like any other student. They can go to student assignment and choose a school that has their particular service, like the IS students. We've labeled them as IS students. They have the ability to rank any school now. In the past, if they were part of the IA program, they wouldn't. They'd have 2 or 3 schools. So I think the staffing process could recommend these are the schools that have the program. But in reality, some of these students could go to student assignment like any other student and rank their schools and get assigned now.
Due to our program, where we have a lot of things to do tonight, this will be the last speaker right here.
Hi, I'm Amy Mayer. I'm representing Veterans Park Academy for the Arts. And my question is really just a clarification on the street 3-year strategic plan. Is there a reason why that's targeting elementary students only, or is that a starting place and then an intention to look at middle and high school as well?
Yeah, I believe it's a starting spot, and it's something that we look at middle and high as well. I think when you look at the sheer number of schools we have in each level, it's probably the most challenging one is elementary. You have multiple choices. As a matter of fact, if you live in subzone E2 and you're a parent and you have a child, you have 17 schools to select from. That's just a lot of choice, and to expect a parent to do research on 17 schools is pretty outlandish. And it could really lead to transportation distances that are just, crazy. It is a start. Looking at elementary schools, and it's something that we want to look at the middle and high level. I think the challenge at middle and high school is we do have specialized programs, and they're extremely specialized with the IB, the ACE, arts, some of the academies that we have in our comprehensive high schools. I think it would be more challenging to limit choice at that level because it's very hard to be equitable. It's hard to replicate some of those programs we have in high school in all of the schools so there's equal access. IB is an expensive endeavor. To put it in every school would be very expensive, and it would be probably very hard to find teachers to teach IB courses. To having a firefighting academy, to have that in every school would be a challenge. So I think there's some things at high school that would make it challenging for us to do the same thing that we're doing at elementary. We know that the elementaries are unique, and some of them have some special programs, but we think there's an opportunity to reduce choice, keep kids closer to home, and make ourselves more efficient. At the same time, making all our schools equitable as far as quality of instruction and leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mora. We appreciate you being here, and we will do, yes, we can give him a hand. And we're going to change things just a little bit, only because we need to take that vote because the meeting will be on the 16th of November, and we don't meet again until the 18th, I believe. So we'll have to take that vote. However, we have our other guest is going to be with us through Skype. So he is patiently waiting to join us. Hello. Hello. And our guest is Mr. Bob Serra. He's the district legislative representative, and he's going to talk a little bit about what he does. Hello there. Can you see us? We see you. Okay, good evening, and you can go ahead and take it away.
Very good. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. I'm Bob Serra, and through my company, Serra Consulting Group, I have been representing the Lee County School Board since 1999. I began doing legislative lobbying for public education interests in 1992 after completing my studies at the Florida State University. My role for the school board is to help them to develop their platform and the positions that they care about, to help them to communicate with the delegation on a daily basis and to provide additional access to those members. I attend committee meetings and other legislative business meetings in Tallahassee during the session. I provide a bill tracking list, which I believe was emailed to each of you just so you can see what we're doing at this point, because the 2016 session will begin the second week of January, where typically session doesn't begin until the first week in March. I help the board to draft bills when needed or amendments, to secure sponsors, and to work with the legislative leaders that are from other areas of the state who happen to be the education policy leaders, to help them to understand what our priorities are and to negotiate with them on the basis of understanding the history of the policy that they're working on. Lobbyists get paid to do what activists like yourselves might do on your own, but the expertise comes in three primary areas. The first is in having the right network of people. So it's the network of legislators, the staffs on the various committees, the legislators' staffs themselves, their own office staff, but also the network back to your own client and the other interests that are involved privately that might be similar, or frankly, those that might be working the opposite side, so that you have that network of people and the ability to contact them on short notice and get responses and have the ability to communicate with them. The second part that lobbyists need to be expert on is on the process. How do bills get filed? What are the deadlines? How does a bill go through committees? How do you get them on an agenda? And what's the process for getting amendments filed and working through all of that? I also have a significant responsibility with the budget, and in my particular case, through the years that I've been doing this, I've become an expert on the education funding formula, and so I help both our district and board to understand how any proposed changes to that formula might drive more money to Lee County or take money from Lee County, even with the same total dollars being proposed for the pot of the Florida Education Finance Program. And then the last area where a lobbyist needs to be an expert is on the issues. And my firm has specialized on public education issues since we were formed in 1999. And it was one of the 3 issue areas that I specialized in during the 7 years prior to starting the firm. I did not copy for you, but it is on the district's webpage, the adopted school board platform for the 2016 session. And you can find that on the district's website, just off of the school board tab, labeled legislative priorities. And I thought I'd just spend a few minutes noting for you what the board adopted for this year and identified as their priorities for this year, and give you a little feedback on where some of those may go this year. The top priority for the school board was in trying to address the capital outlay crisis for the district, both our shortfall in maintenance funding, and to identify some funding sources that would allow for the new schools, some of which I know you've been talking about already tonight. The board is asking the legislature to consider restoring the cap on local millage that is allowed to be levied for capital outlay purposes. And we're also asking them to enhance the PICO revenue source. That's the primary state source for capital outlay funding, which back in the mid-90s would provide over $1 billion statewide for K-12 public school construction and maintenance needs. And last year, the traditional public schools received $50 million from that. So a slight difference in what's available over a lengthy period of time here, but that's a significant drop-off. Our platform also talks about funding high-quality instruction, and we are asking the legislature to establish a long-term plan to make Florida's public education system world-class, and to include a long-range plan to provide adequate, predictable, and stable funding. We would like for the legislature to look at designing a system to collect sales tax on internet-based sales, which, according to the law, those taxes are supposed to be collected, but unless they have a mechanism to collect them from the retailers, the reality is many times they're not. And we ask them to review all sales tax exemptions and eliminate any that does not support greater economic growth than the amount of the exemption granted. The next portion of our platform deals with local control and having the legislature to respect the portion of the Constitution that specifies that local school boards shall operate, control, and supervise all free public schools within the school district. In specific within there, we have 3 bullets asking that the legislature provide for local school boards to make the final decision to grant or reject a charter school application, regulate a charter school that is having problems meeting local expectations, to share or not share capital outlay funding, and the ability to terminate a charter. We also have a bullet that says to repeal the current mandate for school districts to pay higher education tuition for dual enrollment students. And our third bullet is to reject any new unfunded mandates. Our platform has a title dealing with supporting fair competition, which has a bullet about reestablishing the charter school administrative fees designed to fully cover the mandated costs of all district services that we're required to provide for charter schools, and to provide regulatory equity between charter schools and traditional public schools by expanding the flexibility that the traditional public schools are allowed. So we don't want them to get regulated more, but where there's a difference between the level of regulation for charter schools and the level of regulation for a traditional public school, we think that the state should provide us the same flexibility. And then our final issue topic area deals with restoring smart accountability. I'm sure that if you've been reading the newspaper and watching your local media, you may have seen that there have been serious questions that have blown up in the last several months as it relates to the state's accountability system, the setting of cut scores, whether the new FSA will be used to produce school grades for the last school year or not. Our platform has 4 requests in this area. We're asking the state to consider having a study to look at the state assessment requirements with an eye towards reducing the total instructional time lost both by students being assessed and those who are displaced because of test scheduling requirements. We want to address the obvious test vendor failures from the 2015 test administration and make sure that those problems are not repeated in any future years. We want to delay transition to computer-based testing for younger students who have not been taught significant keyboarding skills. And that's one of the proposals on the platform. And then finally, we want to allow paper and pencil exams to be offered if selected by local school districts to reduce overall testing time, improve test scheduling, and provide better measurements of actual learning for certain grade schools or students. The transition to computer-based testing was supposed to shorten the period of time that it took to get results. It was supposed to shorten the amount of time that the students were going to be taking the exams themselves. And instead, we're looking at the possibility of the school grades being delayed until possibly the beginning of 2016 for the last school year, and all the various problems we've had in getting results back. Plus, where we used to deliver the FCAT essentially district-wide in just a handful of days, the computer-based testing has required large windows of time to be established so that students could rotate through available labs and the computers that are available. So those are the platform items that were adopted by the school board this year, and I will be working with our delegation members to forward those issues, and as new bills are filed or new issues maybe are created in the budget process, I will help the board to identify those issues, get them to respond back as to what their positions are on them, and also assist with communicating those positions to the legislature as they come up. I wanted to note, if you are looking for me, my email address is on that platform card, but I'll give it to you here verbally. It is Bob Serra, and that's BOBCERRA at Comcast.net. And if any of the members of the DAC have any questions about any legislative issues that you've heard about, I'll try to provide some assistance in tracking down the actual bill, where it's at, and help you to understand maybe some of the history behind some of the issues for your questions. I did provide you that tracking list, and in looking through it, what I can tell you is that the major education bills at this point still aren't there. They haven't been filed yet. We're anticipating that there will be a major charter school bill this year, where we anticipate there'll be an additional push to have charter schools share in district local tax revenues for capital outlay. That's something we're resisting because we already don't have enough to support the existing schools that are owned by the citizens and taxpayers, and so we don't think that the citizens and taxpayers should pay for facilities that they don't own and don't have the right to keep and use in the future if the charter operator decides to take the asset and use it for a different purpose. We anticipate a major parental rights bill being filed again this year. Senator Benaquisto filed that bill last year, and while it has not been filed again this year at this point, we expect it to come forward again. And the budget process for the state is in its pure infancy at this point. We anticipate that the governor will release his budget very close to the beginning of December. He's allowed to release it earlier than that point, but typically the governor will hold it until getting fairly close to the deadline. That would be the first couple of weeks of December, and when his budget recommendation comes down, even at that point, it is just a recommendation, and it's the legislature that develops the state budget, and that process will begin in earnest in January. I wanted to leave some time for some questions if that's okay with the chair.
Thank you again, Mr. Serra. We have approximately a couple of minutes, like 3 minutes, for one or two very succinct questions. You'll have about a minute, and you must come to the podium if you have a question that you'd like to ask, because it has to be recorded. Is there anyone that does? Please go. Please state your name.
Hi, Mr. Serra. Thank you for all your dedication to the schools. I just have one really quick question. My name is Kelly Lavis, and I represent Three Oaks Middle School, but I also teach it at a college, and I'm wondering, that dual enrollment money is a very important aspect of getting a very high-quality education for exceptional students, and I'm wondering how much would cutting that funding actually generate for our district? Thanks.
I'm sorry I don't have the number in front of me. The mandate to provide full tuition costs to a community college or university that is providing the dual enrollment instruction on their site is only a 2-year-old mandate. And prior to that mandate, districts and the various higher ed institutions, whether it's the college or the university or others, had interlocal agreements where we negotiated who was going to pay what for the services for those students. And the legislature created this mandate 2 years ago and inserted themselves into that process rather than the legislature funding the colleges or the universities for those services. They're requiring the school district to pay for part of those costs, and our school board has adopted a position against it. I don't have the number in front of me, but if you will send me an email, I do have the number that was created by the district for what the cost was 2 years ago, and the cost today would just be slightly more based upon growth.
Okay. Well, again, thank you very much. I don't know which way to look to see you, but we thank you very much, and we should give him a hand, please, for joining us. And and I'm sure that we'll be contacting you through email, and that was bobsarah@comcast.net. Thank you so much, and have a good evening.
Thank you all.
I'm sorry.
If you remember, we want to be able to collect some questions at our breakout session, and then we'll send all of those questions to you, Bob, and then you could answer them as a whole group, and we can include those in our minutes.
Very good.
Okay. Did everyone understand that? Okay. In the breakout groups, your questions will be. Okay. Thank you again. And moving along to our next segment, we need to do the voting for our new officers for the incoming year. And to facilitate with that, there was a change from your minutes, your agenda. It's going to be Ms. Meg Middaugh and Chris Patrica. And while they're coming up to prepare, I just wanted to make a quick statement. You guys can come on. I've enjoyed the opportunity to be the DAC chairperson. I'm sorry. I have changed my status from full-time teacher to part-time teacher for a few reasons. One, mainly to find out what I want to do when I grow up. Don't laugh. Okay. And I am still representing Lehigh Acres Middle School, but as the alternate as opposed to the representative. I will not be running for chair again this year. I am very glad that we have accomplished so much. One of the main things that I was appreciative of is the liaison between the other advisory councils. And I know that the good that we have done and will continue and also improve with the incoming new officers. And I wish them all the best. According to the executive committee, what will happen is the new officers will take control of the meeting at the next meeting coming up. And I will finish out the meeting this evening, so if you'd like to go ahead and do the vote.
Okay, so I'm basically going to read a presentation that you can follow along with up on the overhead. So the responsibilities of the DAC chairperson, we are going to have to nominate and then elect a DAC chairperson and a DAC vice chair tonight. The responsibilities of the DAC chairperson are to facilitate DAC meetings, facilitate EDAC meetings, assist with the development of DAC and EDAC agendas, review notes from breakout sessions along with the EDAC, and contact presenters for DAC meetings. That's probably the most time-consuming part of the position itself. The responsibilities of the DAC vice chair are to facilitate DAC meetings in the event the DAC chair is absent, facilitate EDAC meetings in the event the DAC chair is absent, and finally assist with any additional tasks that the DAC chair needs. Voting directions. Only the school's DAC representative may vote. If you're a guest, you can't vote. If you're here as the alternate, you cannot vote unless your primary DAC representative is absent. On your ballot card, please write two things: the name of the school you represent and the name of one nominee for DAC chairperson. At this point, we'll take nominees for DAC chair. I personally would like to nominate Cindy Crosby. Are there any other people that want to nominate anyone for DAC chair? I'll bring the microphone to you so you can make that nomination. Going 1, 2, 3. Cindy, congratulations. Oh, wait a minute. I see a hand in the back. I'm sorry? I have a motion to move on Cindy Crosby. Do I have a second? All in favor? Signify by saying aye. All opposed? Excellent. It's unanimous. Okay, now the voting directions for DAC Vice Chair are the same as the voting directions for DAC Chair, but I will repeat them. Only the DAC representative may vote. No guests are allowed to vote. If the DAC alternate is here, you cannot vote unless your primary DAC representative is not here. On your ballot card, please write 2 things: the name of the school you represent and the name of one nominee for DAC Vice Chair. We do have a nominee already coming into this evening. His name is Andy Erickson. Andy, could you stand? And are there any other nominees from the floor for the position of Vice Chair? Please. I have a motion to move on said name. Do I have a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed, signify by saying nay. And again, it's unanimous. Congratulations. That concludes our voting.
Thank you, Mary, for preparing all those lovely cards that we didn't use. She did such a fabulous job of preparing for this, and it was so easy. Congratulations, Cindy and Andy, and I'm sure that it will go wonderfully well for you. So let's, moving on, our next, we need to back up 1 second. We still need to do the vote for the site selection committee, and we will do it like we did before for East Zone, South Zone, and West Zone. And any representatives from the East Zone that would like to sit on the site selection committee, is that the correct name for it?
Yes. 2 per zone.
Oh, 2 per zone. So we'll make this easy. 2 people from East, please stand. Okay. All right. No, I mean, I don't want to limit you if you wanted to stand, but that would be good if we only have 2. Okay. So please state your name and come up and state your name right quick and just go right there real quick and tell us your name and your school.
Lori Smiley, Horns Marsh Middle.
I'm Tamika Woods from East Lee County High School.
Don't leave. Lori and Tamika, congratulations. Good man. And did we get those names? Okay, from West Zone. First 2 stands up, get it. So please go to the mic.
Anybody else want it? I'll sit down. No.
Anyone else interested? Seriously, if anyone else is interested in doing it. Okay.
Scott Hertz representing Gulf Elementary. Larry Rubel representing Calusa Elementary.
And we say congratulations. Thank you. And West, did I miss? South. South Zone. Anyone interested in site selection committee? Oh, we got a race. Come on down, ladies. No, come on down. Oh, chicken. Okay. Would you 2 ladies please go to the podium? And state your name and your school. They're so polite. You can go first.
Joan Downen from South Fort Myers High School.
Pamela Radcliffe, Estero High School.
And we all say, congratulations. All right. All of you for both committees that were elected, please, please, please make sure that you see Mary before the end of the meeting. There's some information that she has to collect in order to get in touch with you. Thank you so much for that. It is time for our breakout sessions. And in the breakout sessions, ladies and gentlemen, we need to make sure that one of your main priorities is to collect at least 3 questions from each group that we will present to Mr. Sarah to get answers to. So that's one of your main things that you want to do. And always remember, the communication in these groups is you are bringing information from your schools. Yes?
I think one of the representatives for Estero, that we need to double check that one. That's not the name that we got from the school.
Okay.
Mrs. Radcliffe? You're representing Estero, or you're the DAC rep? I'm the DAC rep. Okay, it has to be a DAC rep or an alternate. I apologize. That's okay.
Are you the alternate?
Well, I don't have you as the alternate either. Okay. The 2 names I had are Adam and Michael Bumpus. That's what Estero sent me.
If you guys want to talk to her afterwards, otherwise you were the 3rd. So just in case, we'll give her your name, and we'll check that out afterwards. So when you go to your breakout groups, remember, you are circular communication, bringing information from the schools and taking it back. And we will be back in here still at 7:45. It's going to be a little abbreviated. Thank you.
He's the best, okay?
Oh, you did?
So when I saw they had 2 people.
Hello.
Okay, good evening. We are trying to get you out of here in time. We're already running behind a little bit. So our first, for those of you that are new, what happens now is we do just a quick report, very brief, of what was covered in each of the meetings. And since middle school is up here, please begin.
Okay, I'm Pat McCarley from Cypress Lake Middle. We talked about lots of different things. We were talking about the town hall issues coming up, but also local things. And Mr. Torber had come in and answered some of these questions. 2 areas that we were concerned about: how are students specifically selected to student assignment? They're not always getting the closest school to them, and one parent was concerned that maybe they were being chosen because of their performance. Maybe if they were a better student, they were moved to a school where they needed to have some higher performing students. He clarified that for us and said that wasn't really the case. Funding for from public resources for charter schools. That was another issue that we had talked about briefly, partly because it had come up in Mr. Sarah's presentation. And then thirdly, the sales tax. We were looking for more details on the exemptions for the sales tax, who's being exempted, what's been exempted, how much money is being lost. Thank you.
Thank you. And elementary, are you close? They are just coming in. High school. Go ahead and take that spot.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Knapp, and I'm representing the high school. I also represent Department of Juvenile Justice. This evening we talked to Mr. Toiber, and he addressed some of the issues that they were talking about in the middle school as well. He also spoke about how happy we all are to have Dr. Adkins here and how everything is harmonious. 3 of the questions that we came up with tonight, of many, we had some questions about what specifically Mr. Sarah is going to present this year as legislation. What is the plan for collection of internet sales tax? And what is being done to keep students in our schools safe now? In particular, Dunbar wanted to know how many security specialists they have. We also want to know what could be done to improve academic outcomes for students who have been pushed into the full inclusion model. And we had some questions about the change in insurance from Blue Cross to Aetna. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And elementary.
Hi, we had lots of great topics. My name's Rami from Edison Park. We had some questions regarding the quality of the test and the clarity when they're printed out from the computer. So Ms. Ralph was in there and she got to address that, which was great. Apparently there's different ways the teachers could print out testing. So if you guys are having any of those issues, you can ask your teacher, which was a great thing to learn tonight. We also had some teachers bring up the concerns with the annual contracts versus performance, and so we've got a question formed for that. And we had questions about the quality of food, a lot of information, funding, lots of conversations. We had some questions about why homework doesn't count in elementary schools, if the kids are required to do it and it taking a long time. So homework does not count for elementary schools, something some of you might not have known. So we had a good meeting.
Thank you. And we hope that all the groups have completed your 3 questions and have turned them in to make sure that Ms. Reeder has them. One thing I just want to remind you, when you go back to your SACs, the first question, the litmus test is, have you asked your principal? Has your question or thought been brought up at your school? If that passes that litmus test, then bring it here and think, is it for the good of more than just 1 or 2 people? We thank you so much for your service. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to serve you as chair for the last year. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And when I decide what I want to do when I grow up, I'm sure you'll see me again. Can I have a motion to, wait, one thing. Okay. Okay. Please, 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 if you want to remain the elected person from DAC to sit on those committees that you signed up for, make sure to see her. Otherwise, we will be selecting people posthumously, that's hard to say, for those committees. So we have to make sure you have your information tonight, okay? Remember that one meeting is on the 16th, and November the 9th is our town hall meeting. The questions that you brought up in your committees tonight are the questions that will be presented prior to the legislators to make sure that they have thought about, and where's the, okay, so that they have answers to those prior to. And if is there anything else for the good of the order? Yes, sir. Oh, I forgot one thing. Okay, are there any non-DAC members on non-agenda items? Anything that wants to be brought out? Yes, ma'am. Please come up to the front and state your name.
I'm actually speaking for somebody else, and so I'm looking for it.
You can paraphrase.
Okay, okay. Hi, I'm Lori Fahey. I'm not a DAC member. I'm asking a question for another parent, and she had concerns about how many teachers we have in our district right now that are not currently certified, and what the process is there.
I do know, and Mr. Toiber or anyone else can help me out with this, and principals that are here representing the schools, that it has to be publicized if they are teaching out of field. It has to be publicized, and parents have to know it, and they have a, I don't know the time factor. Are any of our principals here that can speak to that? Yeah. Please state your name just for record. Okay? And it has to be posted in your newsletter. The time factor that they have to do that, I'm not quite sure.
Okay. Well, and she was also concerned how that works into, it's an elementary school mother, and she was also concerned how that works into the ESE students who also need to have...
Teachers out of field?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. But it's noted because it's in our minutes here, and we will make sure to get back with you about that.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Any other non-DAC members, comments, questions? Okay. May I have a motion for the last time? Is that why you're here? And a second? And please name your name. Okay, J.D. Hebner, ALC, and our motion maker here. All in favor of going home and having a steak dinner? Thank you so much, guys. Have a good evening.